Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine. Let's start this video from the front lines review. Today, for a very long time, we see a blue movement of Ukrainian side. Ukrainian army went on a counterattack very close to the Bakhmut city. Before, Russia tried many times their attacks near Ivanivske, so let's zoom into the territory to see everything more precisely. I turn to the satellite image because it shows more details, streets, buildings sometimes, and here you can see that Ukraine liberated two of the forest lines and the part of the unpaved road. I think that the Russian army didn't expect this move from Ukrainian side, and indeed, I didn't expect it either. The main military support is still being discussed in Senate while I'm recording this video. By the way, we have good news about it too. I believe that this night the military bill will be supported by Senate, and this week obviously Joe Biden will sign it 100%. Nevertheless, let's go back to our place. So here Ukraine might potentially strike Russian forces into a vulnerable spot because Russia was concentrated mostly on advancing towards Ivanivske, so it is their main supply road. Because Ukrainian army is now very close to those supplies, 1.2 kilometers, 0.8 miles, something like that, it means that Russian supplies might be disturbed by Ukrainian army using any sort of the weaponry. I mean, not just the FPV drones, but mortars and, in some of the cases, machine guns. Plus, Ukraine has Bradleys and tanks, and those are just the wide open fields, a perfect place for the drone usage. Well, I'm still in doubt that this counteroffensive would go to Bakhmut and it would be very fast and big. No, I'm sure that it will just stay mostly at the same place, but the main purpose for it is to disturb the Russian supplies in Ivanivske, to slow down the Russian offensive in this village. This village is very crucial for Ukraine, because if we zoom out, you can see that the next story is Chasiv Yar. Ukraine should keep Russians away from that settlement. Otherwise, Russia might have a serious bridgehead to continue their offensive in the future, for example, towards Konstantinovka. Yeah, now it is located very far away from the front lines, but we know that Russia concentrated lots of the resources to continue their attacks and to intensify it in May or June, so during the summer campaign. They are getting ready for it. We see it from the intelligence reports from Ukrainian side and from our allies. But Ukraine is still damn capable. Remember how our guys forced Russia to leave Klishivka, and still there were fights for this village, but now Russia just stands still over there. Judging on the current situation in Ukrainian army with ammunition, with artillery shells, this advancement really looks like significant breakthrough. But again, it's not the part of the major counterattack. No, it's the tactical mission, which in this case was successful for Ukraine. So Ukraine, you did awesome job for a very long time boosting morale of the soldiers who are fighting in this particular direction. But we also have not so good news coming from the front lines. For example, in Ocheretine, there Russia expands their attack vector really far away from the main front lines, creating the sort of the attack fist towards this settlement. I think that their goal is not to continue their advancement. Their main goal is to keep it under control, I mean Ocheretine, creating a bridgehead, and then they will try to advance from other places. So what's the bad news for today? That Ukraine was quite late cutting this fist from the main front lines. Probably Ukraine didn't have enough resources to do so. And here we have the advancement of the Russian army in just 4 of the days. I would say a successful advancement for them and unfortunate for Ukraine. Clearly, the defense of the settlement wasn't organized properly. However, Ocheretine is not the main part of the Ukrainian defense lines. Let me show you the other picture. So we have this map of Ukrainian trenches and defense lines, at least the major ones of them. So Russia is now 3 kilometers away from the main defense line, if we may call it like that, because they're not interconnected, but they've built recently to protect the other Ukrainian territory. Those, I would say, are more robust compared to what we have in Ocheretine. Also, you may call this stuff a defense line and this one as well. As I said to you a minute ago, I don't see that Russia is going to move to the most protected area right now. By doing so, they would just extend this long sausage and create vulnerability of their supplies. Meanwhile, for them it's also hard to advance from this side because there are quite robust defense lines from Ukraine. So they will just occupy this village and stay there for quite a long time. After they'll try to search for the weak spots, and the weakest spot is, I think, over here. So they will try to expand this bridgehead towards southwest. They may also try to advance from this place, however it will be very hard for them to do. So maybe they'll go from this side as well. At least it's the logical thing for me based on what we see on this picture. But Ukraine absolutely needs to cope with this Russian threat, and today Ukraine tried to do it, however unsuccessfully. So this analysis from the Mako 73 was posted this morning based on the images coming from the drones and the reports from Ukrainian soldiers. Here Ukraine tried to counterattack using artillery in the vast areas, also tanks. The idea was to cut this Russian fist from the supplies, but it didn't work. Instead, Russia sent more reinforcements, and here they go with their attack vector. So even during the morning time, they got some success in this region, but Ukrainian counterattack this time failed, however with no losses for Ukrainian vehicles. And this is the evening update. Already you may see that Russia is very fast occupying Ocheretine. Maybe for this hour they already occupied this village fully, because it was in a gray zone, and you see that definitely that was quite fast, expanding their bridgehead even more. Now there is even a threat for the Solovyovo village. And as we know, in this area there are not so robust defense lines. Compared to the northern side, that is why Russia advances towards the place. They have the air surveillance, they have south lines. It's basically impossible to hide the Ukrainian troops' locations in a modern-day war with all of those tools. In general, the situation in this place is very difficult for the Ukrainian army, and obviously we see that defense collapsed at this place. On X, I see kind of the strange rhetorics from some of the military experts and some of the soldiers of the Ukrainian army, because I know that this account strikes for sure belongs to Ukrainian soldier. And he comments that it's 105th Brigade to be even punished or blamed for maybe poor defense. Well, honestly, my friends, I wouldn't blame any kind of Ukrainian soldiers. Mainly they do what they were told to do by their commanders and other military officers. Maybe the command of 105th Brigade we might put under the question, but not the entire brigade itself. And for me, it's very strange to see this comment from a real Ukrainian soldier. Well, actually, there were some of the attempts before to blame some of the Ukrainian brigades, for example, for poor defense in Avdiivka. So the 3rd South Brigade should have performed the job for them. I heard this information, and honestly, we are out of clue of what really happened out there, as well as in Ocheretine. Probably we'll have more details in the future. The military command is first of all responsible for organizing the proper defense, not the soldiers. And here we have the picture in general. So yes, it was too late for Ukrainian army to commence this counterattack, and Russia goes in attack in this area. They have more resources compared to Ukrainian army, so they're gonna use them widely, especially this time that the military aid for Ukraine hasn't been delivered yet. A great risk also goes for this area between Semenovka and Berdichi. There is a river, which I just showed you. As usual, every river plays the role of the natural obstacle, barricade. So if Russia penetrates that obstacle, it would create many more problems for Ukraine, especially in those open fields. So this could be the other big issue for Ukrainian army. As we see, Russia still keeps initiative on the front lines. Hopefully, with the new military support, the Russian army advancement will be stopped on the front lines. But anyways, I expect it to happen close to the autumn time. By that time, Russia would occupy many more territories, unfortunately. At least we have this forecast also from Ukrainian officials and from Budanov, the intelligence chief of Ukraine. Just a short break, my friends. If you want to support the job that I do on YouTube daily, you may join my Patreon team. You may find the link in the video description just below for it, or scan the QR code available on the screen. Thank you so much for your kind support. But it seems like the Russian army is also in trouble, especially with their incompetent military command, and today we see the sign of it. I think that it happened for the first time in the Russian modern history. The deputy of the defense minister of the Russian Federation, Timur Ivanov, was arrested for bribe today. This guy had a perfect position in the Russian military. He was responsible for the military constructions, also for the mortgage for the military personnel. If some Russian officer or soldier wants to buy the apartment, they usually have a discount from their army in the bank, so it calls a military mortgage. Plus, he was responsible for the renewal of Mariupol city, for all of the constructions out there. Well, definitely a best position in the Russian armed forces. But as it happens with gambling, in the Russian corrupt army, he needs to stop at some point. Otherwise, the system would just eat you. And that is what we witness here. I believe it's the long chain of the corruption in the Russian army, I mean military commanders. It's not just the single person guilty, but I'm sure that only this guy will be to blame for. The other branches of the Russian army are also damn corrupt. This system is just unable to work in different way, and that's why Russia has severe losses, many more compared to Ukraine. Remember, last year the Russian air defense general was charged with bribery. A very similar story, but it happened after Moscow appeared under Ukrainian drones attacks. Meanwhile, Russia continues to modernize their equipment against Ukrainian drone attacks. And here is the Russian MTLB full with the fishing nets. Probably at some point it might help. But at the same time, it's very hard to operate this unit. It's hard to evacuate from it. Here they put this wooden stick to get into the vehicle from the aft part. But if you need to leave the vehicle, if it got damaged, how would you lift up this very heavy metal cage? Because this one is metal. A very interesting solution by the Russian army. The same we may say about this track. It's also hard to leave it. Probably there is the door over here or over there, but definitely this one could be more or less safe against the FPV drone strikes, because the distance from the net to the vehicle is quite large in this case. Well, the previous modifications were more or less okay, but this one just blows my mind, because Russia installed, particularly Russian soldiers, installed the net on aft part of their motorcycle. So here's the China-made motorcycle which they use, and they put this net on the aft part, which is a totally useless solution, because if the drone hits the net, obviously debris, the shrapnel, it would go and hit everything around. So they just carry the dead weight on their motorcycle. It's bad, but Ukraine still has the issues with the air defense systems. Just Germany announced that it will send one of the systems to Ukraine. Germany is also looking for other solutions for Ukraine. Netherlands say that they will try to purchase one of the systems from some of the other country and deliver it to Ukraine. Here we speak about the Patriot systems. Poland says that it needs its Patriot systems to defend its own territory because there is a risk from Belarus. Yes, indeed, Poland has those risks. As for the France and Italy, they haven't come to the conclusion of whether they have enough capabilities to supply SAM-T systems to Ukraine. Meanwhile, Ukrainian officials say that potentially Ukraine might obtain 4 of the air defense Patriot systems soon, and 7 in general, but Le Monde, this news source, says that there could be problems with that, and indeed we see that there are some of the big issues. Chancellor Scholz calls the United States of America to give at least one of the Patriot systems to Ukraine. But again, there is no robust solution for the coming months. It is bad because Russia promised to intensify the aerial attacks on Ukraine if the Ukrainian military bill will be signed by Joe Biden. Clearly a blackmail from the Russian side, and they continue to use their terror strategy. About the combat videos, my friends, probably you know that I'm unable to post those on this platform because of the restrictions that YouTube applies for most of my videos, but I usually post those images on my Telegram channel, so I highly recommend you to subscribe for my Telegram. You may find it in the video description just below. Here, for example, is the video with the Ukrainian tank on assault. The tank belongs to the 3rd Assault Brigade. It was on successful mission not far away from the Orlivka village. It fired from the long range, targeting the Russian positions in the settlement. One more video with the Chinese golf cart was targeted by the FPV drone, and again you may check it out on my Telegram. Probably it's the most unsafe vehicle from everything that Russia has on the front lines, especially when they use it for offensive operations. We all speak about the Western-made weaponry, the Western support of Ukraine, but some of the weaponry Ukraine is capable to produce on its own. For example, those Kazakh armored vehicles, and they have armor, so more safe for the army personnel. Plus, Ukraine produces Bohdana artillery systems, 155mm caliber, artillery shells, and many drones. Plus, legendary Neptune anti-ship missiles. By the way, one of the Ukrainian-made drones was spotted in one of the Russian fields. It's not the Bayraktar, it's the Ukrainian kamikaze drone capable to fly kind of the long distance. But the design of this flying machine is similar to Bayraktar indeed. Right, the Russian defense minister who actually never served in the Russian army. Yes, he became a minister straight away. That's what I call a career growth, but anyways, we have some of the statements from this guy. He said that the total losses for the Ukrainian armed forces since the beginning of the special military operation, they still use this term, amounted to almost 500,000 military personnel. 500,000, so 500,000 soldiers. Total loss. Well, to be fair, Ukraine is not publishing the figure for Ukrainian losses. It's the usual thing to do for any kind of the army. And yes, as usual, the enemy side statistics is over-exaggerated, as it happens with Shoigu in this case, or with Ukrainian statistics, which could be also quite far from reality. But Ukrainian side shows less figures compared to what Shoigu says about the Ukrainian army. But you know, Russia is a mighty country, it has a mighty army, so it should print a bigger, larger number. But if we go to any sort of the analytics, for example this one, based on the actual combat images, photos and videos from the drones, we may see that in every day Russia loses many more vehicles at least compared to Ukrainian army. For the last 3 days, 167 Russian vehicles against 44 of the Ukrainian vehicles. So if Russia loses so many vehicles, how would they lose less army men? It's just impossible. But whatever, it's just the Russian propaganda. What else Shoigu say today? That Russian troops have the initiative along the entire line of contact. Well, here he is right, unfortunately. Mainly because Ukraine is out of the resource to cope with the Russian midwaves. The Russian armed forces will increase the intensity of attacks on logistics centers and storage bases of the Western weapons in Ukraine, targeting some of the very important facilities. Maybe they might do it again, especially when Ukraine is in lack of the air defense missiles. And also systems. It seems like our allies start to understand that to protect the military aid, they need also supply more air defense. Shoigu also said that this year Russia plans to put S-500 brand new air defense systems into their army. The operational range of it is 600 kilometers, so they will cover the vast part of the Ukrainian territory, mainly disabling usage of the F-16's fighter jets. But you know, it is just the expectation of the Russian army, which they advertise in their press conferences. This is what they did before with T-14 Armata tank and Sukhoi 57 fighter jet, which haven't been used in the special military operation. Right guys, now good news for Ukraine. The main part of the military support, the military equipment for Ukraine is now based in Europe. It's been confirmed by the United States officials that previously it was already shipped to Europe, to Germany, Poland and some other countries. Very fast it will be delivered to Ukraine, I'm sure about it. From the next week we're gonna start to obtain weaponry. Because Senate will obviously support it, they already voted for the short-term review of the bill, and yet there are some of the freak senators who would like to have a long speech of why it is bad for the United States to support Ukraine. But it will not work, and finally it will be voted by Senate, signed by Joe Biden this week, 100%. You probably know that there's going to be a big celebration in Russia, the victory in a great patriotic war, on 9th of May, and this party for Russia becomes a great propaganda day. Well, before they had the tradition of putting their relatives on a stake with this placard, and they were marching along the main streets of their cities. They call it the March of Immortal Regiment. Well, actually I have nothing against the tradition, but Russia speculates on the memory of the fallen soldiers of the Second World War. Those marches appeared few years before Russia occupied Crimea. Why? Because they wanted to make those celebrations as massive as possible, showing the unity of society and nation. But you know, this year they cancelled it. It happened in the previous year too. So why do they do it? Why Russia doesn't like this tradition any longer? Well, the answer is very simple. Russians will not put their fallen relatives of the Second World War. No. They will raise the placards of their fallen relatives in a special military operation. So the Russian streets would look the same, but with totally different concept behind it. Small streets will go to the big prospects and then to the main squares of the cities. And of course, the Russian people would be amazed seeing all of those losses around. So the Russian government did everything as usual. They decided to ban everything of that, and for sure we'll see even arrests of the people holding their relatives on 9th of May, because it is strictly forbidden. Meanwhile, Russians will make their usual parade. As you can see, they're now on training for it. Kind of the interesting uniform, I might say, and not only with this one too. Not yet a Hugo Boss, but very close to it. You might ask why Hugo Boss? Well, because that factory actually made uniform for Nazis in Germany. Mr. Don Kadyrov shows his athletic body physique. Just look at those moves. Fantastic. So why he decided to show his regular gym training? Well, basically, again, there were some of the rumors spread in the internet, mostly from the Western sources, that Kadyrov is damn sick, that he has severe problems with kidneys, with pancreatitis, and he'll die soon. So Kadyrov decided to show that he's not going to die. And really, this fatty doesn't look like he's going to die soon. There were some rumors also spread before during the summertime that Kadyrov is in hospital. He was out of the social media or mainstream media for a very long time. Well, maybe he had some of the issues, but we cannot prove that. So for now, I consider the rumors about the health of Putin or Kadyrov are just fake news. I'm telling you about it just to stay informed, not misinformed, because many of the pro-Ukrainian bloggers insisted that definitely Kadyrov will die soon, and they start to build conspiracy theories behind it. Now, I think we should put those rumors and this stuff as well a little away. Sorry for showing you those terrific images. Good news from Denmark, they are willing to send all of the F-16s to Ukraine. In any case, they are planning to renew their fleet. They're purchasing F-35s from the United States. And just for love, I don't know whether it's artificial intelligence or not, looks like real, a toy in one of the Serbian shops. I would like to purchase the one actually, looks interesting. Russians produced a video game shooter based on the events happening in Ukraine. In this game, you would fight for the Wagner soldier. They're still testing it, but it's the total cringe. Yeah, they used the Unreal Engine for this, and Prigozhin is really creepy. He looks like an alien or something, so it is a shooter. Here you may also pray to the icon of Mykola Chudotvorets. Oh my god, such a creepy face of Prigozhin. Oh my god, he's like from hell. And definitely they say in this game like, we will be in hell, we're the soldiers from hell, at the same time praying somewhere, so it's cringe. I also saw on TikTok that the Ukrainian team is also producing some sort of the game shooter, and they want to spend a part of the income to support the Ukrainian army. I forget the name of the game, but later on I'll tell you about it. For sure it will be much better than this cringe from the Russian side. And now don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot. And as usual, I wish you all a peaceful sky, wherever you are. And have a great time.